In the far edge of the galaxy, where many powerful alien empires ruled their systems, there was a great place called the Galactic War Council. It was not a place of peace. It was a place where the strongest species gathered to decide the future of war, power, and control. Many ancient races were present there. Some had lived for millions of years. Some had conquered hundreds of star systems. Some could destroy planets with advanced weapons. And then, there was Earth. Humanity. To most of the council members, humans were nothing special. In fact, many did not even respect them enough to call them a threat. They called humans short-lived, emotional, weak-bodied, still developing. Some even laughed when Earth's name was added to the summit list. One alien general said, "They still fight on their own planet. Why are they here?" Another replied with a cold tone, "Let them come. It will be entertaining." And that idea spread fast. The invitation to humans was not made out of respect. It was made out of mockery. They did not expect humans to change anything. They only wanted a show. A joke entry in the most serious gathering of the galaxy. The council decided something secretly. Let the humans speak first. Let them stand in front of the most powerful beings in the universe. And let everyone laugh together. No one believed humanity would survive even 5 minutes in that room without showing fear. On Earth, the message arrived. It came through deep space communication channels. Governments across Earth received the same transmission. It was simple. You are invited to the Galactic War Council Summit. There were no compliments. No respect. No warning. Just coordinates. And a date. At first, many humans thought it was fake. A trick. A misunderstanding. But soon, Earth's top leaders confirmed it. It was real. A meeting beyond human understanding. A meeting with alien civilizations. Inside Earth's defense councils, there was silence. Some leaders were excited. Some were afraid. And some were confused. Because no one knew why humans were invited. One scientist spoke softly. "If this is real, then we are not invited as equals." No one replied. Because deep down, they all knew it was true. Still, humanity prepared. Not with fear. But with curiosity. A single ship was chosen. Not a war fleet. Not a massive armada. Just one diplomatic ship. It was small compared to alien vessels. Simple in design. But inside it carried humanity's voice. And something else, something unknown to the galaxy. When the human ship entered the outer zone of the Galactic Council space, alien scanners detected it immediately. The readings were strange. The ship was not powerful. It was not fast. It was not heavily armed. And because of that, many aliens smiled. One council member said, "So this is Earth's great representative?" Another laughed. "It looks like a training ship." Security systems allowed it to pass without concern. No one saw it as dangerous. Because no one believed humans could be dangerous. Inside the Grand Council Hall, thousands of alien delegates were already seated. The hall was massive, built with energy shields, floating platforms, and advanced technology older than human civilization itself. At the center was the council stage. Where leaders of empires would speak. Where wars had been declared. Where planets had been erased from records. And now, humanity was about to enter that stage. The doors opened. Silence slowly spread across the hall. Every eye turned toward the entrance. The human delegation walked in. There were only a few people. No armor. No weapons visible. Just simple uniforms and calm steps. At the front was the human commander. He did not look around in fear. He did not show surprise. He simply walked forward like he belonged there. But the room was not ready for him. Whispers began immediately. That is Earth. They look so normal. I expected something stronger. A few even chuckled quietly. Because to them, humans looked like a mistake in the council room. Not a real participant. Just a joke that had finally arrived. The human commander stopped at the center of the hall. He looked at the council without emotion. No anger. No fear. Only silence. The galaxy waited for him to speak. Some expected him to beg. Some expected him to freeze. Some expected him to fail. But instead, he slowly raised his head and said only one line. You invited us, so we came. And in that moment, the entire galaxy did not know it yet. But something had already begun to change. The moment the human commander finished his line, the entire Grand Council hall fell into silence. Not normal silence. A deep, heavy silence that even the advanced alien translators could not explain. Thousands of alien delegates were sitting there, yet no one spoke. No one laughed anymore. Because something in the human voice felt different. It was calm, but not weak. It was simple, but not empty. It carried something strange. Confidence. The council leader, a massive being with glowing blue skin and 6 eyes, leaned forward slowly. His voice came out cold and controlled. So, Earth finally arrives. A few alien officers behind him smiled again. They still thought this was entertainment. The human commander did not respond immediately. He just looked at the council. Not as superiors. Not as gods. But as equals. And that alone made some aliens uncomfortable. One alien general stood up from his seat. His armor was heavy, filled with war marks from hundreds of battles. He pointed at the human delegation and said loudly, "This is the Galactic War Council. Only strong civilizations stand here." A few aliens nodded. Some laughed again. The general continued. "Your species is still new. Still emotional. Still fighting each other on your own planet." He paused, then added with a mocking tone. "And you think you belong here?" The hall reacted with soft laughter. This was the moment they were waiting for. The joke species trying to stand among legends. But the human commander still did not move. He only looked at the general. And then spoke in a calm voice. "We did not ask to belong." The room slowly quieted again. The commander continued. "We were invited." A pause. "And we accepted." The alien council leader raised his hand, stopping the mocking general. He studied the humans carefully. There was something unusual. No fear signals. No stress response. No visible nervous movement. It was unnatural for a weak species. The leader asked. "Tell us, human commander, why should we not remove you from this council right now?" The question was not a joke. It was a test. The hall became tense again. Even the air system seemed quieter. The human delegation did not react immediately. One of the younger human officers slightly shifted, but the commander raised his hand subtly, stopping him. Then the commander said, "You can." A pause. "You have the power to remove us." The aliens looked at each other. This answer was not expected. The commander continued. "But you don't know what happens after that." Silence again. This time, heavier. Inside the council hall systems, something strange began to happen. Alien sensors started detecting unknown signals. Not from outside. But from within their own communication network. A few officers quickly checked their consoles. Their expressions changed. Confusion. Then concern. Then silence. Because deep inside the council system, there were traces. Human traces. Hidden protocols. Unknown access points. One technician whispered. This cannot be possible. Another replied nervously. Why are we detecting Earth signatures inside our network? The council leader noticed the change. What is happening? He demanded. No one answered him immediately. Because even the most advanced alien systems were now showing something terrifying. Human presence, everywhere. The human commander finally spoke again. Still calm. Still controlled. You invited us into your council space. A pause. We accepted, completely. The alien delegates froze. The commander continued. Not just our bodies. Another pause. But also our systems. A sudden alarm echoed softly in the hall. Not loud. But enough to make every alien realize something had gone wrong. Security systems tried to lock down. Defense protocols activated. But nothing responded normally. The council was no longer fully in control of its own network. The aliens were now looking at each other with real fear for the first time. And the human commander simply stood there. Quiet. Patient. Watching. Because the joke invitation was no longer a joke. The alarms inside the Grand Council Hall did not stop. They were not loud, but they were everywhere. Soft warning sounds repeated again and again from alien systems, consoles, and security grids. It was confusing because the council was supposed to be the most secure place in the galaxy. No one was supposed to break it. Yet now, something was already inside. The alien delegates started looking at each other. For the first time in that hall, there was no laughter. Only confusion, and growing fear. The council leader stood up slowly. His glowing eyes focused on the human commander. What have you done? He asked in a low voice. It was not a question of anger anymore. It was a question of uncertainty. The human commander did not move. He answered simply. Nothing new. A pause. We only arrived. The alien general who mocked humans earlier stepped back slightly. His confidence was gone now. He looked at his console again. More readings were appearing. Unknown signals. Unknown access points. Unknown presence inside systems that were never supposed to be touched. He whispered. This is impossible, they are only one species. But the data did not lie. Human signatures were everywhere. Not just in the council hall. But in surrounding space stations. In communication relays. Even in defense satellites. It was like humanity was not entering the system. They were already there. The council leader slowly turned toward his officers. Explain this. A technician finally spoke, his voice shaking. Sir, it is not an attack in real time. He swallowed hard. It is, already built. Silence again. The leader frowned. What do you mean, built? The technician hesitated before replying. The human systems, they are not breaking our network. They are part of it. A cold feeling spread through the room. The idea did not make sense to the alien minds. How could a weak species connect to advanced interstellar systems without detection? How could they integrate without permission? But the answer was already in front of them. The human commander finally spoke again. His voice was still calm. We studied silence. A pause. While you studied dominance. He looked around the hall. You believed power is shown. Another pause. But we learned power is hidden. The alien council members began to feel something they had never felt in this hall before. Doubt. Not about humans as individuals. But about humanity as a whole. One of the council elders spoke slowly. So you are saying, you were watching us? The human commander nodded slightly. Yes. A pause. For a long time. That single sentence changed the atmosphere completely. Because it meant Earth was not a new visitor. It was not an outsider. It was an observer. The council leader stepped down from his platform slowly. He walked closer to the humans, studying them carefully now. "No records show your species reaching this level," he said. The human commander replied. "That is because you only look at what is shown." He paused. "We built where you were not looking." Inside the council systems, more alerts appeared. But now they were not just warnings. They were confirmations. Human systems were not invading. They were synchronizing. Defense grids showed shared access. Communication lines showed dual control. Even some council protocols had unknown human backup layers. It was not a sudden attack. It was preparation. Long-term preparation. A younger alien delegate finally broke silence. "This is a trap." His voice echoed through the hall. "You are saying you were weak, but you were building this entire time." The human commander turned slightly toward him. "No." A pause. "We never said we were weak." Silence hit again. The commander continued. "We just never needed to show you everything." The alien hall now felt smaller. The same place that once felt like the center of power in the galaxy, now felt exposed. One by one, systems began to stabilize again. Not because humans fixed them. But because humans allowed them to stabilize. It was like control was never taken. Only shared. And that realization was the most dangerous part. Because it meant humanity did not come to fight. They came already prepared for anything that could happen after the invitation. And now the galaxy was starting to understand one truth. Humans were not the weakest species in the room. They were the species that had been waiting for the room itself to appear. The Grand Council Hall was no longer the same place. The confident energy that once filled the room was gone. Now there was only tension and silence that felt heavy on every mind. Even the strongest alien generals were no longer sitting comfortably. Some had stood up without realizing it. Some were checking their systems again and again, hoping the readings were wrong. But nothing changed. Human presence was still there. Not as an attack. Not as a threat. But as something far worse for them to understand. Control without force. The council leader slowly returned to his seat. His movements were no longer proud. They were careful. He looked at the human commander and asked. "If you had this level of access, why did you wait until now?" It was a serious question. The human commander looked at him for a moment before answering. "We did not wait." A pause. "We grew." The room became quiet again. Outside the main council station, deep in orbit, alien security fleets suddenly received alerts. At first, they thought it was a system glitch. Then multiple reports came in. Unknown ships detected. No jump signatures. No warning signals. No energy distortion before arrival. Just presence. One fleet commander shouted. "How many ships?" The answer came back after a pause. "Too many." Inside the Grand Council Hall, the lights dimmed slightly as external screens activated automatically. Every delegate turned toward the massive transparent view panel. What they saw made even ancient war veterans freeze. Space outside the council station was filling. Slowly, silently, completely. Human ships. Thousands of them. No dramatic entrance. No loud energy waves. Just formation after formation appearing like they had always been there. An alien officer stepped back. "This is impossible," he whispered. Another replied quickly. There was no signal. A third one shouted. No fleet can arrive without detection. But the screens showed reality. Humanity's fleet was not arriving in chaos. It was forming. Organized. Precise. Controlled. Like they already knew every weak point of the Council's outer defense. The Council leader stood again. His voice was sharper now. This is an act of war. The human commander finally looked toward the external display. Then back at the Council leader. No. A pause. This is an answer. Silence again. The alien general who had mocked humans earlier stepped forward again. But now his voice was not confident. It was forced. You broke Council security, you surrounded us, and you say this is not war? The human commander answered calmly. We did not break anything. Another pause. We simply stopped hiding. Outside, human fleets stopped moving. They did not advance. They did not attack. They just stayed in position. Watching. Waiting. It was that stillness that made the aliens uneasy. Because there was no panic. No aggression. Only readiness. Inside the hall, a young alien analyst finally spoke. If they wanted us destroyed, we would already be gone. No one argued. Because deep down, everyone knew it was true. The human commander turned slightly toward the Council. You invited us as a joke. A pause. We accepted as a lesson. He looked around the room slowly. And now you are learning. The Council leader's voice lowered. So what do you want, humans? This time, there was no pride left in the question. Only concern. The human commander paused for a long moment. Then replied. We want the same thing you always had. Silence. Understanding. That single word changed everything again. Because it was not a demand. Not a threat. Not a declaration of war. It was something more dangerous to the old order. It was a shift in balance. The alien council members slowly realized something important. They did not invite a weak species. They did not invite entertainment. They did not invite a mistake. They invited a civilization that had been preparing in silence. For exactly this moment. And now the joke invitation had turned into a turning point for the entire galaxy. Because humanity was no longer standing at the edge of power. They were standing inside it. The Grand Council Hall had never felt so silent. Not even during past galactic wars. Not even during the fall of ancient empires. This silence was different. It was the silence of understanding that something old was ending. And something new had already started. Outside the station, human fleets remained still. No movement. No attack. Just presence. But that presence alone was enough to keep every alien defense system on full alert. For the first time in galactic history, no empire dared to make the first move. Not because they were peaceful. But because they were uncertain. And uncertainty was more powerful than fear. Inside the hall, the council leader slowly sat back down. His voice was no longer proud. It was controlled, careful. You entered our systems, he said quietly. You surrounded our station. He paused. And you still claim this is not control? The human commander stepped forward slightly. His expression did not change. We did not take control. A pause. We revealed connection. The alien delegates looked confused again. The commander continued. All systems grow connected eventually. Another pause. You call it security. We call it understanding. A senior alien elder leaned forward. His voice was old and tired. Then why now? Why reveal this during our council? The human commander turned slightly toward him. Because you invited us. A pause. And this is what happens when you invite something you never studied properly. Silence again. One of the younger alien officers suddenly spoke. So you are saying, we are already part of your system too. The hall went tense again. The human commander looked at him for a moment. Then answered. Yes. A simple word. But it changed everything. The alien council members began checking their personal devices. Their records. Their communication links. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then small details appeared. Delayed messages. Strange synchronization patterns. Shared data routes they did not create. And one by one, realization spread through the room. Humanity was not just inside their systems. Their systems had already adapted to humanity. The council leader finally asked the most important question. His voice was lower now. What is your goal, truly? The human commander paused for a long time. Then answered honestly. We do not want destruction. Another pause. We do not want control. He looked around the hall. We want survival, of all who can understand coexistence. The room stayed silent. Even the most aggressive alien generals had nothing to say. Because this was not what they expected. They expected conquest. They expected revenge. They expected superiority. But humanity was offering something different. A shift. Not of power. But of perspective. Outside, human fleets slowly began to reposition. Not closer. Not further. Just forming a wide protective pattern around the council station. A shield, but not a prison. A boundary, but not a threat. It was clear now. Humanity was not here to erase empires. They were here to redefine them. The alien council leader stood one last time. He looked at the human commander and said, if we accept this, what becomes of the old order? The human commander replied calmly. The old order already ended. A pause. You just didn't notice when it stopped working. Silence filled the hall again. But this time, it was not fear. It was acceptance. Slow. Uneasy. But real. One by one, alien delegates began to sit back down. Not in defeat. But in realization. They were no longer the only power shaping the galaxy. A new force had entered the stage. And it had not arrived with war cries. It arrived with silence, patience, and preparation. The human commander turned slightly before leaving the center platform. He gave one final line. Soft. Clear. Unshaken. You invited us as a joke. A pause. We answered as reality. And as the human delegation turned to leave the hall, the galaxy understood one final truth. The invitation was never the beginning of a meeting. It was the beginning of a new era, where humanity was no longer underestimated. Because from that day onward, the galaxy never made a joke about Earth again.